and welcome to another teacher talk session tonight. Tonight we are going to have our 109 sessions with another educator from different part of Turkey. And tonight we are going to have Associate Professor Dr. Sedat Akayoğlu from Abant İzzet Baysal University. And when he comes, we are going to talk about different topics today. I hope we are going to have a very fruitful session with him, just like other sessions. Let me invite him, then we can start our live sessions. Yes, there he is. I think not yet. Sedat hocam. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, but I can't see you.
Okay, I will just check my. Okay, it says it's working.
Yes. Now okay.
Okay, now.
Oh, now
Okay.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. Hello, Sedat hocam. It's great to see you. It's wonderful to see you here. And I will, before starting our sessions, and I would like to say thank you for accepting my invitation for teacher talk sessions. It's really great honor to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me for your teacher talks. Actually, I have been following your talks recently, and I know that they're quite inspiring for our pre-service teachers and also for teachers. And I know that they are also following you. And thank you for your efforts, by the way, for the field.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much, hocam. And if you're ready, we can start. I know we are all busy, and you are very busy, and I don't want to take your time too much. Can we start?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And I know about you, Sedat hocam, but maybe our listeners would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Okay. First of all, I was born in Bolu in 1981, and I am over 40. I am 42 years old, and I am married, and I have a daughter. And currently, I am working as an associate professor doctor at Bolu Abant İzzet Baysal University ELT department, and I have been working at this department since 2004, and it makes 19 years of experience at the university. And I started as a research assistant, and after that I became an assistant professor doctor. Now I'm working as an associate professor, and I also worked as the head of the department. Now I am just teaching my classes. And for the BA program, I'm a graduate of Hacettepe University, Department of English Language and Literature, not ELT department, and I graduated from that department in 2002, 21 years ago. I graduated from the university.
Wow.
And I worked as an English language teacher at Anatolian High School of Fine Arts in Bolu, and I worked as a contract teacher, by the way. I wasn't appointed, but I worked there for 2 years, and it was a great experience for me because I wasn't a graduate of English language teaching department, but I learned a lot at that school. I had great experiences in that school, so I am really grateful to those teachers. And after that, I joined to our Bolu Abant İzzet Baysal University as a research assistant in 2004. And after 2 years, I moved to Middle East Technical University, and I worked there for 5 years there as a research assistant during the PhD program. And I completed my PhD program. I got my degree in 2012. And now at the department, I am teaching several courses like linguistics, language and society, methods and approaches, testing and evaluation, teaching practice, and I am teaching all these courses in this semester, by the way. I have 5 different courses at the department. And as for the specific field in English language teaching, I am mainly focusing on computer-assisted language learning, and I have been working in this field in computer-assisted language learning, and starting from 2005 or something like that. And in those times, we didn't have social media, For example, in 2004, we had the Facebook. We were using MSN Messenger. We didn't have the Instagram, or we didn't have
Yes,
this
I
kind of
remember.
video conferencing tools. But actually, in those times, we were also studying computer-assisted language learning. And finally, I can say that I have been involved in many international projects, some telecollaboration projects with our colleagues from the United States. And also, I am an executive board of ELT-related associations. For example, uh, I am a member of executive member of INGET, English Language Education Association,
Mm-hmm.
and also I am the committee of English Language Teacher Education Research. It is an academic association, and also we have also another research group. It is Latin Learning and Teaching Innovations Research and Development Group. And I'm also one of the executive members of that research group. That's all
Wow.
for my introduction.
Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam, for this, the huge experience for sharing with us. Wow, I'm impressed, really. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Hocam. Okay, so let's move to another question. Thank you very much, Hocam. My next question is, what was or were your turning point or points in your own education?
Actually, for the turning points in my education, I cannot say only one or two turning points. I have several turning points. First of all, as for the high school, I'm a graduate of Bolu İzzet Baysal Anatolian High School, and in those times, Anatolian high schools were very successful. And I'm talking about 1990s, by the way, in the last century. It was 7-year-long process, and we have an intensive English courses. And all graduates of those schools were at prestigious institutions, and they were quite successful. And when I entered this school through an examination after the primary school, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and I can say that shaped my future. And after that, I also started started MA program at Abant İzzet Baysal University, and my supervisor was Professor Dr. Arif Altun, and he contributed to my academic studies a lot. And now he is at the university, and I learned a lot from him. And he introduced me to Gölge Seferoğlu from Middle East Technical University, and I worked there, work at Middle East Technical University with her. And I'm sure that I can easily say that for the academic process, the supervisors they have great importance. They are models for you. They show how you can work, how you can study in the field. What are the things that you have to do? They are all models for you. And if you have a good supervisor in the academic field, I can say that you are very successful. And another point is that our greatest motivation is Izzet Baysal, by the way. He's a great philanthropist in our city, and he has founded more than 150 institutions in a small city in Bolu. And for example, maybe you are born at a hospital which was founded by Izzet Baysal, and after that you have a kindergarten, you have primary schools, high schools, secondary schools, and also you have the university.
Wow.
And there are hundreds of institutions in Bolu, so we are grateful to him, and he is a great motivator for us. We are trying to do our best to represent him and his university. This is also another motivation for us.
It's wonderful, and thanks to Izzet Baysal for this lots of contributions for the city. It's wonderful. It's really impressive. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. And Sedat Hocam, we know that actually you have told us lots of experiences in your career. So when you think about your experiences, probably you have tried different methodologies and different, the techniques in your teaching, or maybe you have seen in your learning times. So probably, and you have a kind of a philosophy of teaching. So what is it, and what is your philosophy of teaching?
Actually, I believe that learning is a lifelong journey that should never end. And this is also the title I'm using on Twitter for a long period of time. I have been using lifelong learner. For example, I have been teaching at the university for 19 years, and I still cannot call myself as a teacher trainer. It is something very high status, so I cannot say that I'm a teacher trainer. I'm also learning with my students. For example, I am teaching new courses. I always study for my courses. For example, today I had 8 hours of courses just today. And last night I studied for my courses again and again. Although I have been teaching these courses for 4 years or 5 years, I designed new materials, I designed new presentations. So this is a never-ending process, and it's a lifelong learning journey for myself. And also, I'm trying to do best to inspire my students at all levels to enjoy the learning process, rather than transferring knowledge. Rather than that instead of just transferring knowledge, I try to inspire them to enjoy learning process. And at the beginning of the semester, most of the time I say that this year I hope it will be it will be an enjoyable semester, and we will all learn together. And I always learn with my students. And for the classroom atmosphere, if we create an atmosphere which is supportive and collaborative, then the students will be engaged in activities more, and they will enjoy the learning process. I also say that if your students trust you, and if you create a supportive and collaborative learning atmosphere, I am sure that your students will be more active. They will engage in the activities, and if you design some meaningful tasks, active involvement, these are the key words for learning. And also another point is that I try to integrate my students' voices into my classroom. I always hear them. I always get their opinions about my courses. And I usually say that, do you have any objection at the end of the semester? If you have any criticisms, you can say that, and I can change it next year, in the following year. And I always do this. Or while designing syllabus for my courses, I usually talk with my students what I know what they need and what I can integrate my courses. That's also one of the powerful things in my courses, I can say that. And for example, we experienced the pandemic. Also nowadays we experience the earthquake, unfortunately.
Yes,
and
unfortunately.
We have different times. And knowing our students and dealing with our students from their psychological side, in the end they will trust you, and they will understand that our teacher is understanding us. Our teacher understands us, so they will trust you, and it will also helpful for creating an atmosphere for your students.
I see. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam, for this nice explanation about the philosophy and your suggestions about it. I want to move to another question, which is related, a kind of a method that we use, and if I'm not wrong, you are really familiar with it, and about the flipped classroom. And so, can you give us some ideas about it? So, what is it? What is a flipped classroom? Is it, and also, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using this method in our class?
Yes, actually, I have an article on flipped classroom in 2016. I wrote I had a study on flipped classroom, and I also presented this study in the United States, in California. And although I wrote an article, I had some presentations on flipped classroom. First of all, we should think that it is not something new. We have already been using flipped classroom. It's not something new. What is the idea behind flipped classroom? Actually, you change the place of lectures and assignments. In our traditional, I don't like using traditional, but in traditional settings, most of the time we teach our students, we have the instruction, and after that we give assignments to our students, and they complete their homework at home. If you change the place of these components, for example, if first of all you give the homework, you give the assignment, you give some tasks for the class, and your students come to class having prepared for the session, for the classroom activities. For example, you can record your video presentation, and your students might come to class having watched your recording. Also, you have some reading materials. You have some tasks that should be completed before the class. If your students are ready for the classroom, you can use your classroom time for activities, for meaningful activities. But think about our previous time. For example, when I was at primary school in 1980s, 40 years ago, our teachers also said that come to class having read these papers, pages. For example, read pages from 80 to 90, and tomorrow we will be talking about this. And we went to school having read those parts, and after that we had the class. And so this is not something new. In the past, this was also being used. But if we can implement this effectively, successfully, there are some advantages of doing this. First of all, we had the personalized learning. For example, if the instruction is in the classroom, some students may be slow learners, some students may be very fast in learning, so they can individualize the learning process. They can rewatch the recordings again and again. They may not understand. They can stop the video and they can take notes. And some of them may skip some parts because they can understand easily. So you can, the students can learn at their own pace. And this is also active. This allows us active learning. If the students come to class having prepared for the class, you can design some activities in your classroom, and you can design some tasks, and they can actively engage in the learning process. And also it is flexible. Your students can watch the recordings of your classes, or they can study at any time of the day. It might be at night, it might be in the morning. So we have the flexibility, and as a result, we can say that there is an increased teacher and student interaction in the flipped classroom. But of course, these are the advantages, but we have also some disadvantages. For example, for the access to technology, not all students have the same facilities. Some students have some problems about the internet connection. They may not have devices. So most of the time, they may not have studied the classes beforehand. And also for the teacher, it might be time consuming, because recording a 5-minute video takes, for example, maybe at least 1 hour. So it might be time consuming for the teacher. The teacher just record, and after that, he edit the video, he adds some subtitles or some other materials to the video, and after that, he or she upload it to a server, to a platform. This always takes time. And also, it depends on students' self-regulation skills. If your students do not have the self-regulation skills, they may not regulate their learning process, so they may miss some points. And if your students have lack of motivation, it doesn't matter what you use. If they don't have the motivation for your classes, most probably they will come to class not study the content. So when you enter the classroom, you will say you were expected to read these parts, and you were expected to watch this recording, but if this is not the case, you have to do once again. And these are the disadvantages. The students should be motivated, and also, as I said, the students have the self-regulation skills. If you can manage this, that works perfect. But it is not something quite new issue. Actually, it has already been used in our education system.
In our education, I can understand. Sedat Hocam, before talking about this flipped classrooms, you mentioned that you wrote a kind of an article about it. Where can we find them? Where can our listener, maybe they would like to reach it, to read it? Can they find anywhere else, or any kind of?
Course, I have my website. It is www.sedatakayoğlu.com. And on that website, in the publications, you can find the PDF version of that article. And I have also other articles, you can find it there.
I see. Thank you very much. Can I ask another question about flipped classrooms? Can we adopt this in every level of the students?
Yeah.
Like primary, secondary, high school, we can use them.
Yeah, of course you can do that. You can give some simple tasks. For example, even for kindergarten students, you can give some, for example, collect some materials for the class, or talk to your parents about something. You can give the topic beforehand, and even students at kindergarten level, they can talk to their parents. For example, I'd like to talk about the spring, for example. The topic might be the seasons and what happens in spring. And they can talk to their parents about the change related to seasons. And after that, when they go to school, they will be prepared for the topic. And for the university level, of course, we have already been using that.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. And I would like to move to another, the learning methods, which is hybrid learning. I think you are also familiar with this, the method, and especially it becomes actually as we use this hybrid learning, but after the pandemic, I think it became more, the popular, if I'm not wrong. And now also we are still using it. So can you also give us some information about it? Like, what is it? And also, hybrid learning, what are the advantages and disadvantages of it?
For the hybrid learning, actually, today we started hybrid learning again. As you might have already seen, this is announced by the Council of Higher Education. They say that we are moving to hybrid education. And today I went to classroom and there was no student in the classroom, and I was teaching in the classroom only on my own. I was teaching the course, and in hybrid learning we can say that it's a combination of online learning and face-to-face learning. There are different versions of hybrid learning. It might be blended learning. For example, you can teach some parts of the courses in face-to-face setting, and after that you can give some assignments, you can give some tasks that they can complete on the in online platforms. You can use in this way. Also, there's also another explanation. I strictly reject this. They say that you have to teach in the classroom. It will be face-to-face setting, and your students, some of your students will be in the classroom, and some of your students will be in online platform. While you are teaching in the classroom, for example, I also know your classes in the classroom. You are always walking around the classroom. You always walk around the desk, and they say that you have to teach in front of a computer. And after that, there are some students in the classroom, so you have to teach it at the same time. For example, you ask a question to your student in your classroom. At the same time, another student wants to join your online classes. You accept it. You write something to students in online platform. They cannot see what you write. So there's a discussion in the classroom, and the other students cannot follow. So actually, we have some disadvantages of using hybrid learning. But before that, for the advantage, we can say that it is quite useful for the students. For example, in the announcement, they said that if the students want to come to class, it's okay. If they want to join online platforms, it's okay. It's quite flexible for the students. They can choose whichever they like. And you can also focus on process rather than the product in online platforms. And if you are using online component for your classes, you can follow your students' process rather than the product. It is also good for us. And it is, again, personalized learning, and it improves engagement. But for the disadvantage, technical issues is another problem. For example, at the university, even at the university, we had some problems about the internet connection. If there is no internet connection, this kind of teaching method will fail. And also, there is a lack of social interaction we all experienced during the pandemic in online classrooms. We know that there are some students in front of you, but you don't know where they are, what they are doing. You ask a question, most of the time, we ask, can you hear me? Is there anyone over there? There's always this kind of lack of social interaction. And teachers' skills are quite important in this one. Teachers should have technical skills. For example, when I did this session, I had a problem with my camera, for example. I have to solve this problem. But for some teachers, this is something that we have to stop the teaching process. So the teacher should have technical skills, and most of the time it is a complex process.
Definitely.
While we are teaching, we don't have a infrastructure at the universities, at the schools. So this is a very complicated process. While you are teaching your face-to-face students, you should also deal with the technical problems on the computer. So you cannot focus on your course, by the way.
I see. It's also kind of a double effort for the teachers, I think. It's really, I think the most of the things I think is are done by the teachers. You know, the explaining and monitoring and dealing with the technical problems. I think we become really, the tired about, the hybrid learning. It makes us really tired for, the using it in our classrooms. It's really hard work.
Today, most of the professors at the university, they were complaining about this process. And I also followed my friends from other universities. They have the same problems. Even at big universities with their equipments, with their facilities, that I know that they have their infrastructure is quite equal. But I also know that they are complaining about this model today.
I see. We will see what's gonna happen in the later. Okay. I hope it's gonna, sort it out. Okay, thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. Let's move to another questions. And I know that you have a member of lots of, the language communities, and I'm also the part of some also language communities, and then they're really great and really try to, to be in them. So, what are and also probably they have lots of advantages, but can you tell us what are the benefits of language communities, especially for the ELT teachers? Should they become a member of them, or should they just join their, the activities or, the events that they do it, or something like that?
As you said, and I also mentioned at the beginning of this session, I am a member of different associations, and also I am at in the executive board members. And I am a board member of INGET, ILTERC, and also Latin. And first of all, for the professional development, they are required. For example, I graduated from the university 21 years ago. If I don't have any interaction with other teachers, most probably I will be there. I will stay 20 years in that period, 20 years earlier. And we have to communicate with other teachers. We will see what are the problems. Most of the time we are having the same problems with them, and while we are communicating, we can solve some problems together. And these kind of communities, they share a common concern, and our main concern is to teach English, how we can teach English better. This is our main purpose.
Yes.
And we can share our materials, we can share our ideas, we can also share our problems, and we can try to find some solutions for these problems. They, as you said, they organize some events. For example, for INGET, we have an international conference in November, and
yes.
In that conference, the teachers will also be there. They will talk about their e-twinning projects, for example. They will share their e-twinning projects results, and the other teachers will benefit from this information. And also, one of the critical things in my academic career is an online community. It is WebEds. It is not originated in Turkey, but it was founded in 1999, and I joined this group 2004, 5 years later, later after the foundation, and I learned a lot from them. They meet regularly every week. Since for the last 25 years, they have been meeting, and they discuss something. When they find something useful, they share with the others. And I use this in my classroom. This is the way how we can use it. They also get some criticisms about this, and I learned a lot from them. I joined many conferences. I also organized some conferences. For example, we organized a conference in 2012, and it was 72-hour-long conference. It was a non-stop conference, and
wow.
It was a worldwide conference. And for example, I had a presentation at 3 a.m. In the morning. So it was we organized this even in 2005 with limited internet connection, with limited platforms. We managed to do that, and we improved together. We developed together in terms of professional development. They are very useful. If you stay alone, if you choose to stay alone, most probably your growth will be quite limited. I can say
I
that.
see.
And our motto is sharing is caring. So
Definitely.
if we share our ideas, if we share our materials, if we share our opinions, and even if we share our problems, it will be much better for our professional development.
I see. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. And so we learned that we should definitely become a member of one of the the language associations as soon as possible. Okay, okay. Let's move to another question. And also, you are also really interested in the online tools for language learning. So, which online tools do you suggest for the teachers to use in their lessons?
Yes, I heard this question a lot, especially during the pandemic. Many teachers were quite new for the field,
Uh-huh.
and they all asked me what kind of tools we can use, what kind of tools we can use to motivate our students. And the question, actually, the answer is, what is your objective? This is the question. First of all, we
Yes.
should define our objective rather than suggesting a tool. For example, some of my students also ask me, I would like to buy a computer, and what kind of computer should I buy? What are you going to do with the computer? If you are using computer just for writing on Word document and using for PowerPoint presentations, you don't need a graphic card, for example, or you don't need to buy a very complicated computer. So
Computer.
it depends on your objective. And for this purpose, for the LMS, for example, for the learning management systems, you will need a platform. And in these platforms, you can communicate with your students, you can collect assignments, you can make announcements. You will need this kind of learning management system. And for that purpose, I'm using Google Classroom, but you can also use Moodle. You can also use, for example, Ning. Last year we had also Edmodo, but it closed down, so we don't have Edmodo.
Oh.
But I
Uh-huh.
can suggest the tools that I use. I'm using Google Classroom, and it works very effectively. And also in your classroom, you will need some collaboration among your students. And for the collaborative activities, you can use Google Documents, Google Sheets, Google Slides. Your students can work together. For example, last year, one of my MA students completed her thesis, and it was about using Google Documents for writing. In that study, the students wrote their assignments on Google Documents, and the other students came to that platform and they corrected their mistakes. And after that, we created a document, a single document. And this is quite a real world task, because while we are writing articles with our friends, we are also doing the same thing. We create a Google document, and after that, we edit our writings, we add something, we delete something, and we can use it for collaboration. You can also use Padlet. This is
One of my
you can
favorites.
use it like a classroom newspaper. They can just come to that platform, and they can add some. They can post some videos, audio recordings. They can add anything. They can be password protected. Teachers they can use it as private, and the other visitors cannot see them. They can only invite some people to see the materials. And also for the material design, I strongly suggest using Canva for designing presentations, for some posts, for example. It's quite easy, and you can learn how to use Canva very easily, and you will enjoy it. And live workshops, after you created a poster presentation, for example, you can move it to live workshop, and you can design some interactive worksheets for your students. And also another tool is Edpuzzle. For example, we assign our students to watch some videos, but we don't know whether they watch it or not. But if you are using Edpuzzle, your students register for the course. When they watch the recording, it keeps the logs of your students. For example, student A watched this recording for 3 minutes. Another student B watched this recording for 10 minutes. For example, he might have watched that video for 3 times, maybe. Also, you can integrate some questions on video in that tool, and while students are watching the video, it stops and asks a question. They answer the question, and they are also collected. That's also nice for the students. And also, and finally, For the evaluation, you can use Google Forms or Socrates. You can use these kind of tools, but as I said, it is not using ICT integration, technology integration is not using all the tools together in your classroom. It will be quite difficult for the teacher, and it creates cognitive load for the students. So instead of that, we can use some of them, and we have to use them based on our purpose. We have to ask this question: should I use this tool? Is it quite necessary? Can I make this with pen and paper? If I can complete this task with pen and paper, we can also do that. The students also like it. So and technology is not the thing that we should always integrate. Sometimes we should know when to reject and how to reject some tools.
I see. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. Wonderful. And by the way, can we get the list of the the tools that you mentioned after the sessions, so I can share them here? Is that okay for you?
Yeah, of course. I can also I had a presentation for the Minister of National Education, and it is published on YouTube as far as I remember. I can share the link with you.
Great.
And also,
wonderful.
In Zoom session, it was the 5th one, I think. It was during the pandemic, and I had also a presentation about these tools, and the title was "Sesimi Duyan Var mı?" It was in Turkish, and I showed some tools that they can use during the pandemic. We can also share that with the audience.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. So I can share them with our followers. And by the way, I just want to remind you that if you have any questions to Sedat Hocam, you can write them into the question part. When you write them into the chat box while he's talking or while I'm asking them questions to him, we can easily miss your, the comments or the questions. But if you have any questions, please write it into the question part so I can divert it to Sedat Hocam. Let's move to another question, Sedat Hocam. Of course, I hope you are not, bored about, the follow of the session. It's really going great, and thank you very much for lots of the information that you shared with us. Let's move to another question. And when you think about your experiences, probably you have, studied and lots of students in your teaching career. So, my question is about adult students. Are adult students motivated for language learning recently?
Actually, I'm not teaching English, by the way. I am teaching pre-service teachers. I am teaching how to teach English to the learners. But I can also observe adult learners, especially university students, and while they are learning English, I can see that if they have the objective, if they have the aim and purpose for learning English, they are quite motivated. If they have some, for example, we at the university level, we have Erasmus exchange programs, and the students really want to go abroad. If they cannot go abroad through Erasmus exchange projects, most of the time they cannot effort to go abroad. Even we cannot do that. In the past it was possible, but nowadays it's quite impossible even for us. So for the students going abroad and living there for 1 year, for 6 months, it's a good opportunity for them. And the students, university students, are aware of this fact, and they try to learn English. So we can say that for the motivation, first of all, we have to set some goals, and if your students have the goals, they are quite motivated. And also in the past, I remember the days when I was at the university in the last century again. We didn't have the internet connection, so the fast internet connection. I didn't have a personal computer. Even I didn't have a computer when I was at the university. So actually, most of the time, students were asking the question, why are we learning English? They can learn Turkish. Why do we need to learn English? They have this kind of question, but nowadays they have the access to the internet. They can find information. If they want to watch movies, they have to know English. And also, if they want to follow some, for example, even teenagers, there are some pop stars, and they want to follow their Instagram posts, for example, and they want to learn something, or if they want to play a game, a computer game, they have to know English. So English is everywhere, and they have the access to English, and they had a great exposure to English. So I think the university students, I'm teaching at university level, so I can talk about them. They are quite motivated. For the other levels, for primary school, secondary school, high school, most of the time parents are more motivated than the students. They
Yeah,
provide all
exactly.
opportunities. They ask for information. They also ask me. Even there are some groups on Facebook, and even 6 months old children are start to learn English.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw that, but it was the case. One of the posts was like that. I have a 3-month-old child. I am looking for a babysitter, but I want her to be a native speaker because I want my baby to learn English from that period. So
Wow.
in those periods, the parents are more motivated.
It's really great moment. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. Let me ask you another question. Thank you for the and you work there as an academicians in Bolu Abant İzzet Baysal University.
Mhm.
So what can be your suggestions for the ones who would like to be academicians or teachers in the future?
Uh, Actually, for the teachers, for the academicians, or for any profession, it doesn't matter which profession is that. If they cannot make a difference where they start, they should stop doing that job. It doesn't matter. It might be a teacher, it might be an academician, it might be a bus driver, for example. If they cannot make a difference where they start work, they have to give up that work. They should always develop professionally. They should always find something that they can develop themselves. They can communicate with others, with their colleagues, and also they have to find some materials that they can use for their purposes. And although the conditions are not as we expect, this is the case most of the time. We are not always in a very easy conditions. We have some struggles in our profession, and we should find a way to accomplish our goals. And for the academicians, if they want to be an academicians, they have to read and write. These are the two main skills. They have to
Uh-huh.
read. They have to write a lot. These are quite important. And in any profession, again, we should accept that this is a never-ending process. We should always
I
develop
see.
ourselves, and we cannot say, "Okay, I'm done." If we say that, we lost many things. And
Mm-hmm.
also for the academicians, academic integrity that we always complain. Uh, there are some predatory journals. There are some other fake issues, and the academicians should have the academic integrity. This is quite important in our field.
Mm-hmm. I see. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. By the way, there are two questions, Sedat Hocam, for you from
Mhm.
our now the yes. Let me ask you the first one. The first one is coming here. Actually, you have given some ideas about it, how to increase the motivation for the teenagers, but you talk about the adults. But would you like to say anything about it?
For the teenagers,
Yes, how to
uh,
increase the motivation for the teenagers.
for the teenagers, again, we have to listen to your students because it is based on the needs and interests of your learners. If you address their needs and their needs and interests, they will be more motivated. For example, if you bring an issue which is quite interesting for your learners, they will try to take part in that course. And you can create a positive and supportive learning environment rather than a threatening environment. As a teacher, your students should not be afraid of the teacher. They will understand that our purpose is to help them while they are learning English. They have to feel that we are not the
Uh-huh.
police officers for grading our students or labeling our students as A, B, A, B, B. This is not our job, but our job is to teach our students. And also we should set clear and achievable goals. Here we will have some objectives, but these objectives should be achievable. They shouldn't be too difficult. They shouldn't be easy. If they are easy, your students will get bored. If they are too difficult, they will say that I will never manage this. So that there will be some achievable goals. And we can use different teaching methods and materials based on our students' learning styles. Some students just want to listen to a song. For example, I'm not an audio learner. I'm a visual learner. I have to see. So you can integrate some visual materials, audio materials. There, some students do not want to sit for 40 minutes in a class. So you have to create some tasks that your students stand up and walk around the classroom. This will be also motivating for your students. Also, we should always give feedback and support to our students. Most of the time, this is one of the problems of our educational system. We teach our students. After that, we evaluate them through written exams, but we don't give feedback. And the students usually do not know their weaknesses, and especially they don't have any idea about their strengths. That's also another point. You are quite good at this point. The students do not know this point, so most of the time they cannot evaluate. They don't have self-evaluation. And also,
I see.
We should recognize and reward student progress. Some students achieve something, but if you don't recognize this, the students will give up in the end. They say that I did something, but the student didn't recognize that, so they gave up. For example, raising their hand, they raise their hand 1, 2, 4. After they are not recognized, they gave up learning. They stop learning process. And also, we should always emphasize how they can use English in the future to find a better job, to communicate with other people, to learn more about the other cultures. And teenagers are more open to these ideas. For example, I had a presentation for 10-year-old students. It was quite difficult for me. There was an audience, and the audience was 10-year-old students. I asked, why are you learning English? And all of them said they had great ideas. I want to go abroad. I want to study abroad. I'd like to learn more about other cultures. But in our educational system, with lots of exams, we do something, I don't know, but at high schools, students give up these dreams. They just say, why are you learning English? I have an exam from English, and it is multiple choice reading exam. So
yes, you're right.
we are doing something wrong, but I don't know what.
Thank you very much for the answer, for your answer, Sedat Hocam. Let me ask you, actually, all the questions about the education part is that's all. And now I would like to move to different questions, but there are also 2 more questions. Can I ask you to you from the followers? It says here a time travel question to Sedat Hocam. If he had the chance to go back to his past, particularly his school life, what would he want to do less or more? Any regret or any unfulfilled dream? Wow, it's a really deep question.
Actually, when I think of those times in 1990s, 1980s, I was a student at primary school, high school in 1990s, and in those times, actually, I always choose my own options. For example, my maths and science courses were also great, but I chose to study language, and I moved to language class. And after that, when I was about to graduate from the high school, actually I came the first in Bolu in the university exam. I was quite interested in English language and literature. So rather than selecting English language teaching departments, I choose English literature. So I chose my own way. So actually, I am not. I never regret about this. But I have to say that in those times, I was quite young in those days. I thought that I'm a graduate of English language and literature, so I can teach very well because I know English. I know. We were reading Shakespeare's plays from the original version. We were reading all the English. We know English. I always at ELT departments, the language level is somehow lower, but this is not the case. Language teaching is completely different. So I had to study a lot more to learn more about language teaching. It is completely different. But for the English literature, I was quite satisfied. And I'm very happy to have a graduate of English language and literature department.
I
So
see.
for the question, I think I cannot say I regret at any point, and my parents never interfered with me and with my decisions. They always, this is his choice. Okay, let's live and see. And now for the timing, I'm quite happy with
Thank
the.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sedat Hocam. Thank you. And another question is coming here. Yes, can you see it? Is a high grade point average really a necessary thing for academy? What's that? Academia.
Yes, in the past it was not, but nowadays, yes, it is. For example, I graduated with the grade of 2.27. It's quite low, but in those times, all graduates of English language teaching departments are appointed to Minister of National Education, and there were the students, they were not interested in being an academician, so it was easy. But nowadays, if you want to be an instructor at the university, if you want to be a research assistant at the university, your GPA, your grade is quite important, and ALES is important. YDS exam and your GPA, your average grade, we calculate this. And for our department, for example, our criteria is 3.0 for the for application. Because if you want to be an instructor at the university, or if you want to be a research assistant at the university, if there is only one position for one candidate, most of the time the applications might be 100 or 200. So you have to be the first among 200 people. So these grades are quite important. Unfortunately,
really quite important.
This is the case. This is the case in our company. So, that's
great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. Let's move to another question. And can you tell us an interesting moment that you still remember in your teaching or learning career?
Actually, I have two of them. I was expecting this question, so I thought about this, and it takes time for me to find an answer to this question. The first one is when I was an English teacher at Anatolian High School of Fine Arts. It was my first experience. Since I am a graduate of English literature, I had no idea about teaching. So most of the time, I had to discover many issues on my own. We had meetings with parents as usual. We invite our parents to our school, and I remember that none of the parents came to school. So I had to find a way, and I wrote letters to the parents, and individual letters. I wrote them and I posted them. In the next meeting, they all came just to see who is that person. Someone who post a letter, and it was quite interesting. And the other teachers were also surprised to see the results of this issue. And also another one is in our linguistics exam. I noticed that if you know a topic, you can ask questions. If you don't know the topic, you cannot ask questions. And in order to do this, I entered the midterm exam or final exam, I cannot remember, and I said, write 5 questions and 5 answers to those questions, and it was 100 points, and some of the students failed. They wrote the questions, some of them, they just wrote the questions, but they couldn't answer. Some of them could not write any questions. So I noticed that if they study, they can find good questions, but if you don't study, they cannot even ask a question. So this was quite interesting for me. And I sometimes
thank you very much.
use this. Just ask questions. If you learn the topic, just ask a question, and you can easily understand to what extent they learned looking at their questions.
I see. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam, for sharing the moments with us. Let's move to another question. This is also interesting, and I really wonder what you're going to say about it. Like, if you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, what would it be, and how would it help?
For the superpower, actually, the most difficult part of my of teaching is the evaluation process. It is quite easy to teach. I design some activities. I have the lecture in some of my courses, but most of the time I have some problems about the evaluation. I wish I could have a superpower to see when I look at the student. I could see how, for example, 80% he understood the topic or 50% he understood.
Nice.
I just wanted to see this. It might be quite objective. Nowadays, I ask the question, especially in online classrooms, is everything clear? And all students say yes. I know that most of them didn't listen, and I cannot see to what extent they learn or what they learned. It's also another issue. So I just want to see, I'm teaching, I'm doing some class, but what's happening in our students, for our students from their perspective.
Yes.
I just want to see that. That's it.
Really good point and a really good superpower. The evaluation part, yeah, we all need it to see it sometimes. Okay, thank you very much. Before asking my last question, Sedat Hocam, another questions, that came from the followers. Is PhD in ELT after one's 40-year-old age is too late?
No. In the United States, many people start their PhD degrees after 60s.
Wow.
In our educational system, this is one of the problems. They are all after they graduate from the BA program, they immediately start MA program. They have to finish in a very short period of time. After that, they enter a PhD program. They want to finish it as earlier as possible. And at the age of 30, at the age of 28, for example, they finish their PhD programs and they become doctors. But actually, this should be in a long period of time. For example, for my PhD, it is 4-year long period, but I finished it in 5 years time. Actually, I had finished my thesis, but I didn't defend it. I joined some conferences, I organized some events, I joined some projects, and I tried to develop myself professionally before getting my doctorate degree. And after that, I waited for the associate professorship for 9 years. Nowadays, everyone is just collecting points. One article from this part, 2 presentations from that point, and they try to get these degrees as soon as possible. But this is not a good thing. But this is the case in Turkey, unfortunately.
I see.
In other countries, many people are at the age of 40s, at the age of 50s. They just join these programs. And they just try to improve themselves for their professional development or personal growth. They want to see more about language learning, and they are at the age of 60s. They will not be appointed to a school, but they just want to learn more about that field. They join these programs, so it is not late.
I see. It's not late. By the way, your student is here, and it is written, I am Sedat Hocam's MA student at 40. Yeah, nice. Wonderful and a great example. Thank you very much. Okay, Sedat Hocam. So I think it's time to ask you the last question of the session. Are you ready for it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so here is it. What is your motto?
My motto is Samuel Beckett's ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. These failures in our life, they all help us to achieve more and more. So we shouldn't be afraid of failing. We have to try. If you never fail, it means that you never tried. So in my motto, we should always try again and again, and we should fail again and again, and we should fail better. That's the
okay. So to improve yourself, you should fail at some point.
Yes. And
the more you fail, the more you learn. I think something better.
And I also the last statement, as for the final remark, I use fail as first attempt in learning. So we can use it as an acronym. It is the first attempt in learning. After that, we will achieve, but we have to fail. And I have also, I shared that post with you. What are the failures in my life? And they are quite ridiculous. You have to read them.
I will. Sorry about it. And I will read them. I will read them, Sedat Hocam. Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. That's all my questions. It's really wonderful. And before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else?
No, I think thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure and it's a great honor for me to be your host, to be your guest. Sorry, to be your guest in the session. As I said, I have been following your works and efforts, and you are doing a great job for the field. We really appreciate your efforts. You always introduce some new people to other people, and they you just provide this opportunity for us and for the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sedat Hocam. Thank you very much. It's also really great, to listen to you here. And I just wanted to say one more time, thank you very much for being with us tonight and sharing your ideas, suggestions, and also the most important thing, your time. You spend your time with us. That's really precious for us. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And Sedat Hocam was with us tonight, and we had a fruitful sessions. And we are going to be here next week on the same day at the same time, as you know, Teacher Talks time, every Monday at 9 p.m. in Turkey time. And until the next time, and take care of yourselves, and take care of yourself, Sedat Hocam. And I think that's all from my side. And until the next time, take care of yourself, and bye-bye, everybody. And bye-bye, Sedat Hocam. Peace.